$400, and it is bad value for the price. It has a bad feature set that probably isn't going to last into the future, and it's one of the most popular GPUs in the world. It blows me away of how detached this can be from the reality of the situation. Against Nvidia seems as big as ever. Like, Nvidia bad, AMD good, Intel good, literally any other company but Nvidia good. When you enter reality, it's bizarre that Nvidia has more market share of people who own Nvidia GPUs. Nvidia GPUs are in more systems than they ever have before. And that seems to line up with the Steam hardware survey. 76% of people have Nvidia cards. Nvidia doesn't have integrated graphics. AMD and Intel both have integrated graphics on their CPUs, so that makes up a larger percentage of their market share here. So even if the data isn't 100% accurate, it seems like they're in the same ballpark of each other. Nvidia is completely dominating the dedicated GPU space, even though a lot of people at least claim online that they have AMD. Is this just a loud minority of people? Maybe. And this idea is also backed up with the popularity of the Nvidia brand versus the AMD Radeon gaming brand. If you see here, this is a presentation that Nvidia did in 2022 where they announced RTX 4000 series. This video has 19 million views. That's a lot of freaking views. When you compare it to AMD's presentation, okay, so this is where AMD announced their 7900 XTX, but AMD's got 367,000 views. So even if Nvidia's presentation is a little bit skewed by them being so popular in AI and stuff and people might be watching them, there is such a huge difference here, guys. And Nvidia and AMD aren't even the only players in here. Intel also just recently hopped into the discrete graphics card. They're starting to shake things up too, but we're going to talk about them a little bit later because this is a very complex issue. We got to break down why the heck are people buying Nvidia graphics cards even though the consensus online is pretty freaking negative about the Nvidia gaming graphics card brand.
Absolutely do not buy this thing for $400 US. It is laughably bad at that price.
But let's jump into it. The first reason is this, which blows me the frick away. The Nvidia RTX 4060 Ti, this is the top GPUs that are used on Steam, is at 2.45%. This card was clowned on to be literally one of the worst graphics cards to ever release. Gamers Nexus, Tech Jesus here, called the 4060 Ti a waste of sand. Here's hardware unboxed. This is a 16GB version of the 4060 Ti. Nvidia's $500 joke. Nvidia caught selling trash, laughably bad at $400. The 4060 Ti review. I made this video with a goofy thumbnail that talked about a 16GB version of this card was, you know, garbage and stuff. Basically, the consensus online and between most people who are knowledgeable about the subject and everything, the 4060 Ti was a pretty bad GPU. Major reasons was because, you know, in terms of its speed and its efficiency, it's actually a pretty good GPU that's just priced too high at $400, and it has 8GB of VRAM for $400. And that is a problem because of this. So you can see that the 4060 Ti 8GB here at 1440p, it is fast enough to actually play quite a few games at 1440p. On average here, according to Hardware Unboxed, it got 79 FPS in the suite of games that they tested. But a really tricky number that stands out a lot here is this one here. You can see the 1% lows. So basically how much your game is stuttering on the 4060 Ti 8GB was much lower than the other ones around it. Okay, so like it's 16GB brother up here, the bigger brother, it's at 68 here. You can see that 8GB on this card is making it stutter a lot more in games. Most games that are coming out right now are at least pushing the boundaries of 8GB, especially at 1440p. You can just see a Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. If you want to play at high settings, this game wants 9.8GB. If you want this card to last more than 4 years, it should probably have more than 8GB. And this is just a card that it's hard to recommend to anyone, basically, because of how laughably bad it is at $400. Yet we go back to the Steam hardware survey, and it's What the fuck? Why is it one of the most popular GPUs? It's not even that affordable. I mean, it's $400 and it is bad value for the price. It has a bad feature set that probably isn't going to last into the future. And it's one of the most popular GPUs in the world. It blows me away. Even the 4060. This isn't a very compelling graphics card from Nvidia at $300. It's still one of the most popular GPUs in the world. It's selling well, and it's probably going to surpass maybe its older brother, or older but less powerful brother, the RTX 3060. So it just blows me away how people still buy these cards. And I think the reason for this is because the competition isn't competitive enough for a lot of different reasons. But one of the main things is the price, which kind of sounds crazy because the 4060 16GB was $500 at launch, but you know, this one was $400 at launch, and that was too expensive. AMD's competition, say like the RX 7700 XT, where it's getting to what is it, like $370, $380 right now, where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm definitely going to recommend the 7700 XT over the 4060 Ti every single time. That is always the better pick for everybody. It took AMD a long time to get there because this card launched at $450. And then AMD's 7600 or 7600 XT didn't really compete directly with the 4060 Ti. So it ended up being that Nvidia had this absolute garbage card at a price tier that it had no competition. So people bought it. And it's because AMD's cards weren't price competitive enough. What's interesting is when AMD's cards are price competitive enough, they can completely shake up the market. So AMD's 7800 XT, it is going for $480 right now. And when this card launched, it started at $500. And that was competing kind of directly with Nvidia's RTX 4070, which actually launched at $600, which is wild to think now that this card actually costed that much. And at $600, what's even more surprising is the 4070 was one of Nvidia's best value GPUs they had out at the time.
I am very happy that the RTX 4070 has turned out to be a product that we can recommend.
Nowadays, it is at $550, and you can see the price history of this card, maybe not exactly on this one, but if you look at the Zotac version of the RTX 4070, was starting at $600 or so. And then it slowly has dropped down to $550 or $540 at times. Sometimes it goes on more sales and stuff. Much cheaper than what it used to be. And that's because 7800 XT was very competitive at $500. I mean, it was faster than the 4070. It had more VRAM. It just wasn't as good at ray tracing, and it was missing some of the DLSS type features and all that kind of stuff. For a lot of people, this is a great value and probably one of the best cards that AMD has released in a while. So when AMD gets it right, it can be insanely good. And this is something that AMD, you know, competing with Nvidia, what they continue to do, they don't price their cards competitive enough for people to consider them. Some of them are like on the budget end, like Nvidia has been very not competitive on the budget end, and AMD has just been able to, you know, to slot their way in there and get their cards. So a lot of people are getting them. Those are the ones that I recommend. But as they go up the price stack, I've actually found myself recommending to more and more people to get Nvidia graphics cards. It a bit of sense. It is faster than the 7900 GRE. And in terms of the pricing, I mean, it's competitive versus the 7900 GRE. It seems like in terms of the competition, like Intel with their ARC graphics cards, Intel's cards are new. They have driver problems and feature problems and bugs every now and then. That Intel has cut prices on their cards a lot. I think Intel has got that message where it's like, hey, we need to price cut these a lot so that people are actually interested in buying them over AMD or Nvidia. AMD doesn't seem to want to compete that much in these spaces. And maybe this is for a pretty greater reason here. I think it's really interesting to talk about. AMD has made a very successful line of CPUs. And the graphics card game for AMD is just like the complete opposite. They just can't pull off the same thing, it doesn't seem like. Ryzen has been insanely successful over the years, and it's actually brought AMD out of bankruptcy. And they're so confident there, and they handle everything so well. Intel slowed down, and AMD was able to catch up on CPUs there. But it's not the same thing with graphics cards, because Nvidia keeps innovating. AMD's graphics cards, like, they seriously have problems. They seem wildly inconsistent. So like here is a poll from Hardware Unboxed. As you would think every generation, especially with how much people are not liking Nvidia right now, like Hardware Unboxed did a poll and they said, thinking about this generation of graphics cards, you know, all that stuff, Which of these statements fits best? They said AMD has improved the Radeon brand with RDNA 3, which is 7000 series. Radeon brand has stayed the same with RDNA 3, or AMD has weakened the Radeon brand with RDNA 3. And it's crazy to think that a lot of people are saying that it hasn't changed, and even a good chunk of people are saying that AMD has weakened their brand with this generation. It's like, how does AMD have like RDNA 1, RDNA 2, which we're really looking up and up, and then they just make something that's not that exciting? And then you look at the next generation AMD is working on, RDNA 4. It says AMD's next gen graphics cards, this is a rumor, will logically be sold as RX 8000 series models, but could mostly be just correcting issues with existing RDNA 3 GPUs and not taking that much of a step forward performance-wise. So RDNA 4, the next generation, so after 2 years of works, actually more than that, we'll get to that in a second, might just be about the same thing as what RDNA 3 was. And RDNA 3 wasn't that competitive. I don't even think Nvidia feels that threatened by that. AMD is delaying the launch. This can make sense. Like, it's better to get the generation right. We don't want a rushed product. But at the same time, it's like consistency is not there. It's like one generation they launch a 7900 XTX, which is super competitive. And then the next one, they don't launch a top-end GPU as far as we can tell. It's just bug fixing it. And then they're also delaying it longer than what we would want it to be. So we're getting even less GPUs in a longer time, which just makes them not that competitive against Nvidia. The consistency is just not there. And then the next generation, RDNA 5, is going to be a complete redesign of RDNA. AMD's GPUs, completely new thing. Is it even going to be good? We don't even know. It just seems like a mess of a situation that's going on there, and compared to like Nvidia, like they've been very solid. Even Intel is showing that they've been pretty solid with their improvements on their graphics cards. And a lot of this with AMD might be because of leadership issues with Radeon, maybe not as much the CPU side. AMD's Scott Herkelman announces his departure. This was back in 2023 in September, right after he announced the 7800 XT and the 7700 XT graphics cards. He said, after 7 years at AMD and launching 3 increasingly competitive generations of RDNA graphics architectures, I have decided to leave AMD at the end of this year. Godspeed, AMD Radeon. May you continue to punch above your weight class and one day beat the final boss. Probably referring to Nvidia. There's been a lot of turnover on leadership, like Robert Halleck, who served as the director of technical marketing, left the company in late 2022. To me, that just screams, what is happening there? Why is this happening? I don't know the actual behind the scene things. I've never talked to these people or anything like that. But Scott Herkelman himself, in the way that he talked about products, the amount of times that AMD has been dishonest about their numbers is kind of baffling. And the fact that we don't know if we can even trust AMD with any of their marketing. Like, I don't know if this was specifically the doing of Scott Herkelman, but maybe it'll be better in the future. I don't really know. But, you know, in terms of how popular the leadership is, I mean, these are the people that you see. They announce the products. There wasn't really anybody really talking about it. You'd think this would be like a decently big deal. Whereas if you look at, say, like Nvidia's side of things, completely different story. Just watch this.
Create a CUDA that we created, big bang of AI, generative AI. What I'm about to show you would not be possible. This is Earth 2. The idea that we would create a...
Jensen is the CEO of Nvidia, right? And this man just announced Earth 2, like a sequel to Earth, just casually. I don't know what it is about it, but Jensen, at least publicly facing, just seems like a stronger leader for Nvidia. And this isn't even to say, like, he's pretty ruthless.
Sometimes I wonder, because I know Jensen knows who I am. Does he hear me talk about, you know, Nvidia's tight grip on its partnerships, and does he go, oh, Linus is being mean to me? Or does he go, Linus gets it, that's how I do things? Yeah. I'm not sure.
When it comes down to it, but you can see Nvidia's leadership and they seem more put together. They aren't even really focusing on gaming anymore. Whereas AMD's CPU side does seem to be a lot more in order. Then on the topic of AMD just, you know, like kind of lying about stuff, is like, can we even trust them when it comes down to it? Is FSR 3.1. Now, some stuff has come out about this recently. AMD promised enhanced quality to the upscaler. Now, as you guys know, upscalers are very important for the future of games because a lot of games are relying on it to get good performance, or you can just use it to get better performance than you already have. As long as the upscaler looks good, there's really no reason not to use it. There's no downside. And AMD has been pretty weak in the competition for upscalers. Even Intel with XeSS came out swinging harder than AMD did with theirs, and Intel just started this stuff. But yeah, Hardware Unboxed, went over this and they found the same thing that I did.
Is FSR 3.1 a genuine improvement over FSR 2.2? Based on what I've seen across some limited comparisons, I'd say that it is. Unfortunately, there is a trade-off here, and that's ghosting. Across the 5 games I looked at, all 5 had issues with ghosting in some fast motion scenarios, particularly against detailed backgrounds.
It isn't always the case that AMD's new update to it is even better. AMD promises that it is supposed to be better. That's what they advertise. And in some cases, it even seems to be worse. Compounds with AMD's way of marketing because they will pick the most extreme scenario, unrealistic scenario, and then they cherry pick the results, which I know most companies do this, but when it actually releases to the public, it better be pretty close to what you're cherry picking because people will also cherry pick your numbers and they will prove you wrong. People don't want to be disappointed. You can't just say, oh, it's better apparently. That's not how it works. AMD seriously can just be lying sometimes, just straight up lying and overblowing the truth. It's frustrating as a consumer. Can you trust this company to even, make one, good products because FSR was already not that competitive, but then 2, actually make something that we could trust? That brings me on to the topic of features. I already talked about FSR 3.1 where it's not as competitive, but it does have some upsides. It is open source. You can see this is GPU open. You could just click on GitHub and go download FSR 3.1. AMD, it's cool that they open it to the public and everything. You just download it right away, super easy. But at the same time, AMD's FSR technology compared to Nvidia's DLSS, which came around first and to this day still looks better than AMD's FSR technology. So just upscaling in general is just better on the competition, which can be one reason why people want to pay a little bit more money to get an Nvidia graphics cards. And then it comes down to ray tracing and stuff too, because even though a lot of games aren't really using ray tracing quite yet, and that's still the case, a lot of people still want to have the ability to do some ray tracing on Nvidia cards, whereas AMD, they're not that good at that. Even Intel's doing better at ray tracing. This is their first go at it. This is more on the developer side or the creator side, but Nvidia CUDA. A lot of people know what CUDA is. It's basically a programming model. It's been around for a long time and it's very, very mature, which people want with technology like this. You want the company you can trust the most. And AMD is just starting to get around a software called ROCm. In a lot of ways, actually, it's just translating CUDA, at least in some cases, just to work on AMD GPUs. It's starting to get along pretty well. And even this too, Nvidia graphics cards have been the known graphics card for creators and everything. If you want to record videos and work on video editing or whatever on your graphics card, then you want to use this. Nvidia has that pedigree that companies like OBS, the software I'm using to record right now, that they want to work with Nvidia to make new features, because there's a brand new feature coming out on Nvidia graphics cards. You get an exclusive way to encode and stream to Twitch on your graphics card because it's Nvidia, which just shows that Nvidia is pretty far ahead even on the feature thing. If you want a graphics card that is pushing the future, you get an Nvidia graphics card, which is what most people realistically want. They don't really want their graphics card maker to be just playing catch up all the time.
AMD's upscaler is still inferior to DLSS, plus it seems to have added new issues along the way. If AMD really wants to convince prospective GPU buyers that Radeon cards are worth just as much as GeForce cards, and with the pricing of their GPUs, they seem to be continually thinking that that's the case, their upscaler needs to be just as good as DLSS. We're still waiting for that to happen. It hasn't happened with FSR 3.1, and until it does, we won't be able to recommend Radeon without a discount.
Even though AMD makes a lot of their technologies open source, that doesn't really sell their graphics cards to people. If AMD wanted to be that brand that people look to for innovation and is always pushing boundaries. What I see out there a lot of times, an AMD card isn't priced cheap enough, people will jump up and get the Nvidia graphics card. It's what we see in the market. It's like if the difference isn't enough, people will just spend a little bit more money, it seems like a lot of time, to get the Nvidia card, because features, trust, marketing, all that stuff, Nvidia is superior on. What's even crazier is a lot of people won't even use a lot of those things, and that's where you can find a lot of value in an AMD graphics card. You have to be pretty educated on things to even know if you're going to use them or not. A lot of people just see more features, more better ray tracing, DLSS. A lot of people just want that stuff. They're like, they hear it's better and they're just going to get the Nvidia card, even though you might never touch it in all the time that you game, which I think logically makes a lot of sense to me. There's another side to this, and I have no clue how valid this is, why they're still so popular. The newest cards, even though they're renowned to be pretty meh, and it can be because of Nvidia's, how they intertwine themselves in the market so freaking heavily. They got their grubby mitts and everything. But if you look at like pre-builds, right? This is Build Redux. I don't really know anything about them, if they're good or not. I'm not making a recommendation. They offer a PC, RTX 4060. They offer a PC, RTX 4070 Super. Offer a PC, RTX 4080 Super, RTX 4090. You can see that all of these pre-builds are featuring Nvidia GPUs. I buy power.
4070 Ti Super, 4070 Super, 4060 Ti packing.
Freaking pre-built with a 4060 Ti is wild, because that GPU. Whew.
RTX 4060, 4070 Super, 4090.
4060. You have to go to the next page.
4070 Ti Super, 4060 Ti, 4070, 4070 Super, 4060 Ti, 4070 Super.
Finally offering an AMD GPU, the 7800 XT. Cyberpower PC.
4080 Super, 4070, 4060 Ti.
Not a single PC offered on this page here is AMD, except for this one, 7600. And this is just a very cheap PC for $930. Man, pre-builds are expensive. This is main gear.
RTX 4060, 4060 Ti, 4070, 4070 Super, 4070 Ti Super, 4080 Super, 4090.
This can be for multiple reasons, and Nvidia is the market leader, and they are one of the most valuable companies in the world right now. So that could mean that Nvidia is twisting some arms behind the scenes, you know, getting their GPUs into pre-built PCs so that more people recognize them as the go-to GPU, that most people have the GPU.
Nvidia becomes the most valuable company for a few days, immediately tries to strong arm their enterprise customers.
Totally sounds right.
Probably are to some degree. But I think the other half of this is because when somebody goes into a store and they see a gaming PC, or if they go online, they want to look up a gaming PC, you probably want to see graphics cards that you're familiar with. And those are probably Nvidia graphics cards. So it could be either way. People just want Nvidia cards when it comes down to it. The average person ain't like you and me. We don't do our research like that. And this can be our little secret when it comes down to the AMD cards. Can be a great value. I would say up to about $500. Let's also talk about Intel. Intel is working on their next generation of graphics cards. This first generation from them, their A series ones, have been kind of rocky, and I've been pretty hesitant to recommend them to anybody. Intel Arc Battle Mage is supposed to be maybe launching by November of 2024. And then we're also seeing leaks recently, or rumors, that isn't supposed to be coming out until 2025. And maybe they're higher end GPUs by the end of 2024. We're not really sure, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be that soon. Hopefully Intel gets it right, but I think it is a little bit late for that generation, and it might be starting to compete with Nvidia's lower end 50 series cards, or by the time AMD actually starts releasing RDNA, actually 4 GPUs, which are supposed to be more on the lower end. We'll see how Intel goes. I think Intel might have more potential than AMD because they've already adopted the approach on upscaling to use AI, and it looks quite a bit better, I think, most of the time than AMD's upscaler, FSR, which is cool. And also Intel's GPUs have already been performing better in ray tracing compared to AMD's ones at similar, you know, performance tiers and prices and stuff. So Intel has a better shot there. Or maybe the whole RDNA 5 redesign thing is possibly because of ray tracing. I think that's where it's starting to heat up a little bit more, but AMD just seems like they've been a mess, and they might not have a really competitive generation until, what would that even be? 2024? Maybe 2026? That's getting late, man. Like, let me know what you think about all this. Are you literally just one of the guys that are like, oh, go AMD, you're doing good. You're making it competitive with Nvidia. You're pushing down Nvidia prices so I can actually just buy the Nvidia GPU at the end of the day because now it costs less. Are you one of those guys, or are you genuinely buying AMD or Intel? I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Y'all have a good one, and peace.